But Kennedy, President Kennedy explained to us about a blockade, and the Independence was a ship that's going to stop this first ship, and apparently the ship that she was going to stop stopped and turned around, and that was a good thing, but we didn't know how long it was going to go on. Well, one day we're chasing a sub, and you always know if you're chasing a sub because you're going one direction and then you're going another direction pretty quick. And the airplanes were flying, so they were dropping sonar buoys, and those sonar buoys would signal back to our sonar while it was underwater. And so the submarine was a Russian sub, B-59, I think, and that's the designation we had for it. And the story we got after it happened was that the political officer on board that ship and the captain. Now, when Russian ships have a captain on board, but they also have a political officer, a communist officer. He kind of rules everything. They had decided they were going to shoot a torpedo, nuclear-tipped torpedo, at our task force. Now, we don't know which ship it was going to shoot at, but since we've been chasing this thing, we figured it would have been the Randolph. But they got overruled by a commanding officer higher than them that says, we don't think we want to start World War III. And it was miscalculation by the Randolph, or miscalculation by that Russian sub could have started a nuclear war. And I think, in my opinion, I think our President of the United States convinced Khrushchev that he should pull those missiles out of Cuba. But I also, if you're a history buff or anything, I also read that we agreed to take some planes or something out of Turkey. So I've never looked it up, but I think that's probably true.
Anything else you remember vividly about it, about the Navy?
Okay, well, that's the funny thing about my time on the Randolph. While we were over in the Med, Chief Fleming came to me one day, and I don't know, it was in July, I think. He said, Jerry, I've got orders here for you to report to ComNav Airland as soon as we get back in port in November. I said, he said, did you put in for a transfer? I said, no, I didn't put in for no transfer. I want to stay here. And he says, well, something's going on. He says, here's what's going to happen. I got 6 third-class petty officers, and I want you to stay here. I'm going to send one of them other guys when we get in. I said, okay, I just forgot about it. So after the Cuban Missile Crisis, it's probably around the 1st November, maybe 5th, something like that. We're coming back into Norfolk, and Chief Fleming comes to me again. He says, I got them orders for you. I says, why are they transferring me? He says, I know what it is. I said, what is it? He said, that Lieutenant Craig is at ComNav Airland, and you worked with him here at Ready Issue before I came, and he wants you there. I said, why does he want me there? He says, he likes your work ethics. Well, he said, I'm still going to get you out of it. So we tie up, and a couple days later he says, pack your duffel bag and go and catch a bus and go over there to ComNav Airland. You've been transferred. I didn't want to go, but that's the way it is. You take orders from higher up. Anyway, Comnav Airland was, I don't know if you're familiar with naval terms, but that stood for Commander of Naval Air Force, Atlantic Fleet. And I walked in there that day with my duffel bag, parked it down there in the office. They told me where to find Lieutenant Bill Craig. I think it was the second or third floor anyway, it didn't make a difference. I went up there and Mr. Craig, we called him, officers, we called him all Mr. And Mr. Craig saw me and he said, "Jerry, get in here." I said, "Okay, Mr. Craig." I walked in, he says, "I guess you're wondering why you want, why I won here." I said, "Yeah, I'm wondering." He says, "Well, I got a job back there for you. It's engine accounting. You'll work with Chief Trafford and a second-class petty officer named Bill Norris." And he said, "That's where I want you to go." And he said, "I know you do a good job, and that's what we want." I said, "Yes, sir, that's what I'll do." But I sure missed it, Randolph. A couple days later, or a couple weeks later, when I heard that they were going to Denmark and Sweden, I sure want to be on that ship. I forgot to tell you about one time when we were being pushed into Norfolk one time by the port pilot. The aircraft carrier goes into Norfolk, Virginia. They don't go in on their own power. It's too shallow, and you have you have to have somebody that knows the port, and you always had a pilot, a port pilot, and these two tugboats were pushing us, and all of a sudden we just stopped. So what's going on? So they got two more tugs out there and pushed us away. Well, we had run aground, and on the bottom of the front of that ship was a sonar ball, which had just been put on not too long before that. Before the Cuban Missile Crisis, it had been put on, and we were one of the few ASW ships that had that sonar on our ship. So we couldn't get into a dry dock in Portsmouth. So we had to go to Bayonne, New Jersey. Bayonne, New Jersey is just about an hour out of New York City. And for a couple months, every weekend, we went to New York City. And we got that. I want to tell you something. It was some of the best times of my life. I had Roger Maris was hitting home runs right and left, and that's the year he hit 61. And we could go to the USO there in New York and get free tickets to the ball games, get free tickets to Broadway shows. Now, when I say free, they weren't the best tickets, but in New York, in Yankee Stadium, we sat in the right field bleachers, right field, right near the wall where Roger Maris is hitting all them home runs. So that was a good time. And I don't know. You any more questions?
Yeah, well, how long were you in the Navy and all?
I was in the Navy 4 years today. I went in August 5th, 1960, got out August 4th, 1964.
Why did you, you mentioned, or why did you leave exactly?
Why did I leave?
Yeah.
That's a tough question. I didn't have a job when I got home, or I didn't think I did. And I had talked to Chief Trafford and Bill Craig, and Bill Craig both told me that if you feel like you got to go home for a while, go home. But he says, we'll keep this job open for you for a couple weeks. And if you decide to come back, we'll make you a second-class petty officer, and we'll put you right back where you were. But I came home and met your grandmother, and I felt like I found a girl I wanted to marry. So I called Chief Trafford back about it, and he said, well, he understood, and, that was about the end of my career. And we talked.
How do you feel it affects who you are today?
How do I feel what?
How do you feel your time in the Navy affects who you are today?
Oh, I feel like I'm sort of just Navy. Outside of being married and having kids, it's the best 4 years of my life. I grew up, I became a man, and I became independent, very independent, and I guess I actually became private. I used to be, Eileen always tells me I don't want to be outgoing too much. I think I'm pretty outgoing, but she says I'm private. I always want to hold things in. I don't know.
How has it affected your feelings toward war and military endeavor?
I'm very patriotic. I was proud of your dad because he was in the National Guard, and I worried about him. I worried about Afghanistan. I worried about Iraq. I was afraid he was going to wind up over there, but I felt like he could handle it, you know. And it bothers me in a way that only 5 or 6 or 7% of the people eligible to join ever volunteer to join. But NFL football, I won't watch it no more because of the kneelers. Do you know what I'm talking about, the kneelers? Well, these football players, they want to kneel for the national anthem.
Oh yeah.
I won't watch it no more. I turned it off a couple years ago, and people still, I have people ridicule me for not watching. I said, I ain't got a team anyway. The Rams left, the Cardinals left. I am not a Chiefs fan, so.
Is there any particular event that you want people to remember from your?
From the Navy?
Yeah.
I guess the Cuban Missile Crisis was 30 days of wondering what the heck was going to happen. We would, after we serviced that submarine, I think it was on like 28th or 29th of October, and after we let him go, after he recharged his batteries and took off, and we never chased him no more, I kind of felt like the Cuban Missile Crisis may be over, and that was the best part of it all.
Is there anything about veterans that you wish more people knew?
The incident?
Well, like just veterans in general that people
Oh.
don't know that you think that more people ought to.
Nah, nothing. I
Have you stayed in touch with anybody you served with over the years?
No, I have talked to. There was a guy in Sedalia. He was Lieutenant Commander Anderson at ComNav Airline, and after I was there several months, I found out he had a boy playing baseball, and he was on a baseball team there in Norfolk, a little league game, little league team, and one day he says, "What are you doing tonight?" And I said, "I don't know." He says, "Why don't you come over and help me coach his baseball team?" Now this is a lieutenant commander and a petty officer 3rd class. They don't, I went and helped him with that team. He took me home, fed me supper, and then he took me back to the base. That's one thing that very seldom ever happens with that's one thing about ComNav Airline. There was probably 100 officers, probably 30 enlisted men. Now enlisted men are what I was, and officers are.
Do you think, a lot of countries have a requirement that everybody has to be in the military for so long. Do you think the U.S. should have that?
I used to think that, but no, I don't think so. I don't think, you mean have everybody serve?
Yeah. Like,
No, I don't. I think, as long as we voluntarily get enough, uh, I think it's working good. And the people that volunteer, they're the ones wanting to go. Well, you'd get a lot of people that don't want to,
yeah.
yeah.
If, say a grandchild or somebody who wanted to join the military, was there any advice you might give them? Did you encourage that, or?
I would encourage it, yes. I'd encourage it, but I would encourage you to go to college first and maybe go to ROTC and get, go in as an officer. I would encourage that. And I would say the Navy would be the right thing for you.
Well, wasn't talking about me in particular, just anybody. Lastly, when somebody thanks you for being in the military, how does that make you feel?
I'm getting to the point where I just soon they not say it. Because I really enjoyed it. And I find that something I enjoyed like that, I don't need to be thanked for. I should be thanking them for me being in the service. There was something else I wanted to talk about, but I can't remember what it is. You got any more questions?
That's all the questions I have. Unless there's something else you wanted to say?
I can't remember. I guess, have we got enough time in?
Yeah, we sort of hit the outer limit.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming here.
Yeah,
To answer my questions.
Let me think a minute. I guess that's it. All right.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you, buddy.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming here.
Yeah.
Don't forget your NFL money. If you want NFL money, come get it before the weekend.